Okay, sorry about this. We had to use a different camera. Trying to use the other one. Hold on just a sec. Okay. Hold on just a sec, you guys. Hello, Art by Phobe. Hold on just a sec. We're about to get started. Trying to fix a few things real quick. Nothing much. Just trying to make sure everything's started right now. We're having some technical difficulties right now. So I've been trying to make sure to get all these things running at once. Okay, let's try this again from the top. There we go. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now, to everybody out there, hello, hola, konnichiwa, salam, ciao, namaste. Peace to all. This is the Pink Elephant in the Room conversation. And hopefully it doesn't get a little bit wonky or anything right now because we were having some technical difficulties with the system. It kept freezing on two of them for some reason over and over again. So hopefully I fixed everything. But what we're finally going to talk about for tonight is about simply perception. And what I was trying to get at before everything got frozen was I wanted to tell a story about the artists. The artists are many people that went to a museum. And there was many galleries of art, but there was one in particular from one artist that people saw. And when people saw this artwork, some saw the pain, some saw joy, some saw delusions, some saw hatred, some saw a bit of everything. But when one person came one night to the museum to see the artwork and they realized they recognized the artist there, they asked them, what does that piece mean in any sense? And what he had stated was simply, it's just me in art. What he did was simply made himself into the art, and people's perception of what they saw in that artwork was what it was. Now, what of course does perception and relativity and this story have to do with anything? What it has to do with is simply this. We see things in a certain way because of what we've been told and what we've been shown. When everything is relative, there is, for example, if someone thinks there's a right way to do something and there's a wrong way to do something, that is a relative statement. Just like the painting, people thought and argued, no, it's about a person who hates himself or who's showing hatred towards how the world is. No, it's about love and this and that. It's all perception. It's not like you've asked the person themselves. That's something we have to notice. We perceive things in this world to be a certain way, and we think in a certain way that that's the way it has to be. If, for example, I had a conversation with someone earlier about this, if you are getting to your dreams, but the other person feels in a sense that they're not getting young enough, they're not getting any older, and they should get a career, and you should get a career too, but that may not be your objective because you may have bigger dreams out there. And they may feel that that's flawed. Now, I'm not saying this discussion of what I had was like that, but they may feel as though it was flawed for you to do that. That it's not the right way to do things. But the problem with that is there is no right or wrong way to do things. You have to realize everything is relative. And what do I mean by everything being relative? It simply means perceiving through judgment, or if when we talk about perception, sorry about that, it's simply being aware of something through the senses. Being aware of things through the senses. And we don't fully use all our senses to be aware of things. In fact, we'll probably only use perhaps one or two of our senses to understand and be aware of something. But we don't even use it to the fullest extent. I've talked about this before, and I will be making a video about it later, about simply always be observant. Observation is key. If you are constantly observing things, you are constantly in understanding of what's around you, what's going on, what's happening here, what's happening there, what things truly are and not what people perceive them to be. Using perception to believe something to be a specific way. We do this in many different areas. We do this, for example, in politics. We do this when it comes to having leadership roles in businesses. We do this when we tell people religiously how they should be doing things. We do this in so many different ways. These are only a few. There are 1,000 other ways. We do this with family. We do this with friends. We do this with goals. We do this with dreams on how you should do things. And never figuring out what works or what doesn't work for that person. Does it work for that person to constantly and consistently work every day, but yet they have a skill that possibly can make them much more money, and many people have been begging and dying them to make certain things with that skill? Like maybe you can make different crafts for people, and people love your craft so much that they would love to buy from you, but you don't have the time because you're constantly working. But your ideology is the perception. You think work is more important than these crafts, even though you're really good at these crafts and you do like them, but because you grew up perhaps, you believe that the crafts are more important. I mean, the work is more important than the crafts. So you keep working and working, and maybe every now and again you get a little bit of money from something you finally finished for someone and whatnot. That is all perception. Does it work for that person to really work if they have a skill that they enjoy using, but they, of course, use moral ideology that work is more important due to perhaps responsibilities of things I have to take care of and whatnot? Ask yourself that question with yourself. What is vitally important? And there is a balance between the two. That same person could easily do the same thing, could find a different job perhaps that works for them, takes less of their time, but decent pay, just like the other job they had, and still focus on what they desire. Or they could just still do work, but work more upon their craft to make that happen for people because they enjoy it so much. It's up to that person on how they see that perception. That's just one example. The other example would be the opposite side. Someone who doesn't really do anything in their life or whatnot. They might be chilling at home or whatnot. And the other side is they're not working at all. And they might be thinking to themselves, well, I'm not getting any money. What do I do? Look towards something to put in. If you feel you're not getting anywhere, then go ahead and go to work. I'm not telling you to stay there for the rest of your life and whatnot, but use it as a source to create something. Don't think of it as something you have to stay in. Think of it as the next stepping stone for where you desire to go. Again, that's all perception right there. Some people don't desire to work because of the fact of what work brings, what it links. And yes, it's very true. Work does take a lot of your time away. So it might not be beneficial to a person. But how you perceive and how you work with it is what will allow you to create what you desire. Because even with me, I've had to work, but I've constantly and consistently also worked on my channels, on my broadcasts, which is the Pink Elf in the Room conversation, and many other things. Because I am choosing to use my perception of things, knowing that anything I do, I can make, create, any way possible. It's a choice on how you see things. Everything is relative. There's no yeses or nos to anything you create in this world. You can create it if you so choose to. If you feel you are incapable of doing it, then you are incapable of doing it. If you feel you are capable of doing it, you are capable of doing it. It is relative. Everything that you do is relative. If you tell yourself you can or can't, it is true because you are manifesting that reality into your life. You are now choosing the fact that either you can make things happen or you can't make things happen because you are bringing that energy to the table. So if you are aware of that, you will know how relative that is, that you can make one or the other if you so choose. One of the other ways we perceive, though, in this is through judgment. We perceive people through judgment. We perceive people in judgment and believing something to be true or false. Sometimes that can come through credit cards, our system, relationships. Let's go over these three. The first one with credit cards. Many of us, especially if you live in the US, especially, believe in the ideology that credit cards are beneficial. But many of us know that it can cause a lot of debt. And many of us will tell you that if you use it in the right way, that it can be beneficial. But then my question to people is simply, why have credit cards in the first place? And of course, yes, credit cards can be beneficial for the fact of knowing if a person is trustworthy or not, per se, is what we believe is the easiest way. But you could also change that part, which leads into the next one, the system. by simply giving that person a chance. You can put them on a certain specific lease until you feel you desire for them to stay comfortably at this place. But due to how we've run with, for example, credit scores, credit cards, and believing you need these things to have anything in life, we believe that's the only way. However, that is perception. You perceive that is what it needs to be necessary to get to where you say you desire to go, not realizing there are other ways you can get the same thing without good credit score, credit card. if you worked if you work a certain job, or if you're working your dream job, or if you're doing what you desire and you have enough money, that literally can change the perception of things. That's a perfect example of that. But now, leading into system. The system you're in is all we believe in at this point in time. Have you ever asked a person, and leave in the comments down below, for those who are live, go ahead and you can leave it as well. Have you ever asked a person, what would happen if we changed the system of things? People will talk about we could change this or that, but yet many of them will usually stay forth with what we have right now. Have you ever noticed that? I asked a young person, a young man, a few months back. We were having a discussion, and it was about competition. And I had told him competition was unimportant for the simple fact that competition causes more harm than good, because at the end there is always a loser, and not everyone can win. And of course, many people will say, of course, because that's how competition's supposed to be. But that's all you know. What if it wasn't like that? What if it had no need to be like that? What if you believe this because a perception told you? Because somebody who said something to somebody else who told you that competition was necessary to create good functional businesses? What if it was not necessary? What if simply all you needed to do is work with each other to grow businesses and everybody would grow? Now, some people think that's interesting, but they might think that's a crazy idea. But it's not as crazy as you think, because the truth is, it's never been done. The scariest part of this perception is we're more terrified of the unknown than to change our reality by creating something brand new. We have not even looked forth to changing the reality we are in right now and creating something new that works for all of us. We have a mindset of greed. We have a mindset of, I'm in it for me. I'm in it for my family. I'm only doing this for me. I'm getting, while the getting's good, whether it means conniving people, whether it means harming people in any way, shape, or form, to get to where we say we desire to go, instead of finding a way of what works with the whole so everybody gets what they desire. We don't see things that way because we have never created a society that way. And this is due to perception. Perception of the unknown. Perception of fear of the unknown. Because it's not something we've done, we feel it could be a failure. But again, on top of failure, failure is an illusion. So you would never know because you've never tried, because you are fearing what you do not know and getting angry at things you do not know because you've never done it before. Interesting, right? So, what is relative is simply this: the absence of the absolute. Relativity, what it is simply saying there is a yes, or there is a yes and or no to the subject. But we believe in absolutes, just like how I was talking about the system. We believe in that. And to add to this, relationships, for example, before we finish by relative, I'll get to that in just a sec. I apologize for that. Relationships. Relationships, we believe, are a certain way that we have to share with one person. We have to connect with that one person that has to lead to marriage at the end of the day. You have to remember, if we lived in any different world, you might not even think that way. And of course, I've heard from many people, I'd still think that way or this and that. How could you think that way if you do not realize that behavior creates reality of what you see as moral standard or moral code? Moral code has told you that you go and find somebody you care for, you tell them you love them at some point, and then you work towards going to marriage at some point. Is the ideology, the moral code, or the moral standard of what we believe to be true. The perception of what we see should lead up to being in a relationship. But a relationship should be something of a shared experience between two people, maybe more people, give or take who you are. Some people think, oh, that's crazy talk. Why would I be with more than one person? The question is, why wouldn't you? Maybe, of course, you might find someone where you rather just be with one person. Maybe you find more people you love to be with, and they all connect with each other. Now, some people find that crazy, taboo. Yet, again, it's the unknown. It's all perception. It is something you do not know. So many of us will consider it to be taboo to the subject, that it does not fit in our society. But our society is constantly and consistently changing, but at the same time not realizing how important it is to observe and understand these parts instead of being one-sided in perception. You see, perception is never about what we're talking about next, which is relativity and the absolute. Perception was never meant to be absolute. There is not an absolute to everything in this world. We believe there's an absolute. We believe there's absolutely one God. What do you disagree on? Elaborate so I understand. We believe there's an absolute to everything. We believe there's an absolute being, of course, that's a part of this everything. But what if the absolute being is absolute, absolutely one, but yet the collective of everything? Okay, no, and that's understandable. But you have to remember that is a choice. And what I'm telling you is simply this. I'm just trying to make you think for a sec. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. I'm not saying it's right. Just let me explain what I'm stating to you. What I'm stating is the reason people think that way is because of moral standard has told us that is the way it is. Because you have to remember, let's say this was a completely different planet Earth. You're in a relationship with more than one person. Your ideology would be, if someone was with just two people, they think, oh, that's crazy talk. Most of us are with more than one person. I'm not saying, however, I'm not forcing the people to go and be with one person. Be with whoever you choose. If you choose to be with one person and you feel like a connection should be between you and that person, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that at all. If you feel that you should be with more than one person, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You have to understand, on the flip side, there are people who do think like that. And there are people, of course, who don't. So to many of us, we find it taboo, but you have to understand there's two sides. There are many people who would feel the opposite of that, and that's not me stating it. Again, this is just due to observation. It's seeing both sides because again, everything is relative. Yes, it is a choice you are making that you feel that way, and that's great. Choose that choice. That is you. No, I agree with you on that. But what I'm simply saying is this: if that person that you are coexisting with chooses to be with you and you alone, that is a choice. And you are both choosing that. But I'm saying on the opposite end, if someone else out there chooses the opposite of that, they want to be with more than one person and they find people who are okay with that, then that is what they're choosing. To explain your statement, so we have a guy named Art by Fove. What he's asking is simply, what if one agreed with and the other didn't? Would the relationship work if it really, if it would work if either one of them liked it? Okay, so what, now for that, what I'm going to state to you is simply this: it's all about compromise. That's what it's about. What are you choosing? If you're choosing to be with a person like that, are you willing to compromise for that person? Are you willing to love that person? Are you willing to care for that person as they are? Are you willing to compromise and understand each other and coexist with each other in your experience? What do you choose? Because your answer is it's a very brilliant statement because of the fact that that's a very true statement for some people. What if one person's this way and the other person's that way? The question then is, what do you are? First of all, you need to both sit down and talk to each other and figure out what you're willing to compromise with each other to grow each other. Is it beneficial? Does it work? Or does it not work? You have to, again, I don't know if you heard this just now, but is it beneficial? Does it work? Or does it not work for who you are as a person? if if that person's that way, if they're willing to sit down with you and have a talk and compromise, then that's great. If they're not, that might not be the person for you to even be talking to. Because of the fact, if they're not willing to compromise and sit down with you, working with people that can compromise and work with each other grows you. And again, that's perception. If someone feels a certain way about something and they don't agree with you or they don't even give you the time of day, then my question to you is, does it work for you to give your energy towards that relationship? Is this who you are? You gotta see the perception. Yes, you may love this person, you may care for this person, but you also have to care for you. You first. If it does not work and that person has eyes glaring at other people, including you, and you do not feel that way, then it might not be beneficial for you. Because that is not what you choose. Again, though, that doesn't mean that what you are stating about being with one person and one person only is wrong. There's nothing wrong about it. I want to keep that clear. It just means you've chosen that in your life. And that is okay. Again, for people out there who choose more than one person in their life, that is okay. But again, it is your perception, your choice, and you. What I'm simply stating at the end of the day is, again, everything is relative. Thinking with a more well-rounded, open mind about those sides and understanding all those sides is vitally important. But understanding on top of that what you choose while you understand those sides allows you to understand the bigger picture of things, of who you truly are, how things around you are, but what you at the end of the day are choosing. That is what you choose. when we're talking about like creator, as we say, some people believe there's only one. Some people believe there's many. Some people believe there's nothing out there at all. But no matter how you place it, you may believe there's nothing out there, but you believe in energy. And energy is everywhere. Energy is on you because it is you. Energy is everywhere I'm sitting right now, from the walls to the pictures to everything around me, to the cameras I'm using, to the person who's watching me right now. You have energy. And that energy is still one and the same. It is a part of you. And it creates something bigger that is a part of it. And yet, if you flip it one way or another, it just simply means the creator and the collective, which all are one. There are no absolutes, for the simple fact that there are too many things you can experience and create. There is no absolute way to get things right. But there is a way to find what works and what doesn't work for you. And that sometimes means that it might be different from the other person, what they tell you you should be doing. It simply means you find something that works for you. And of course, that doesn't mean it won't work for many other people. But every person has a little different style to who they are. You see, all DNA strands are not the same. And this is a fact. None of them are. Humans are not the same. We can act like other people, but we can never be exactly like that person. We can duplicate what they do, but we'll never be the exact, genuine article of who they are, because we are who we are. Relativity shows that there are no absolute yeses or absolute nos, but there is yes and or no to any situation, anything you believe, anything you see, because again, it's all relative. If you, again, like I said earlier, if you believe you can't do something, you can't. If you believe you can do something, you can. If you believe people should be in only a relationship with two people, then that's true. That's true in a sense. If you believe people should be in multiple relationships, that's true in a sense. But it's all relative. It's up to what works for the person. And finding what works for you, what creates you, what makes you who you truly are. And how do these two things work with each other, for example? If work together, what they can do is just help people change their actions of how they see things. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again, that when you see the perception of things, but on top of that, knowing that everything is relative, you have your own perception of things, of course, but you are now more open-minded and observing of everything. You can change the actions of how not only you react to the toward things, but have a conversation towards how other people react towards things. Instead of fighting and arguing over things, believing that what I say is true, or what I say is true, or my God this, or my God that. Instead, believing that this is what works for me, this is what I feel, this is what I've created because of it, and I feel this is beneficial to me. This is my truth, the truth that I have within self. And that is your truth. You are now using both perception and relativity to create what you feel is your truth. This also allows a creation of multiple systems. Instead of believing in the system we are in now and what we believe in, it allows you now to create multiple systems that have multiple benefits of helping who we truly are and believing, instead of believing in one system is the only way to run things. And of course, we have different countries who believe in different ideologies. But if we worked as one to find those things and work with each other, you wouldn't have the situations you were in. You would not use separation as a means to keep certain people out, like we have in different places. America and Europe right now, where we are trying to block immigrants from getting in, or we're trying to get rid of immigrants out. You would see that none of that is important at the end of the day, and the only thing that is important is working with each other as one. It would allow for us to seek what works for self, instead of telling people, for example, there are people out there, but I might feel complete opposite, that use what we call spirituality as a way to tell you how you should be doing things. It might even tell you, for the guy Phobe by Art by Phobe, they might tell you that no, you're wrong. You should be doing this, that, and this and that. I can't tell you you're wrong because you're not. I have no right to tell you you're wrong. What I can tell you is it is your choice. It is a choice in whatever you do, whether it's eating certain foods that you eat, whether it's being in relationships with who you are with, whether it's taking certain actions. Everything is a choice. And every choice you make is not right or wrong. It is relative to what works for you. If you are aware in that perception of self, then it works for you to do what you need to do for self, because that is what you feel within you. And there's nothing, again, wrong with that. There's no wrong, there's no right about that. That is just a choice of what works for you. And lastly, it advances self. It allows you to think on a higher level and see things for what they truly are. That there's no reason to see people as different from you. There's no reason to argue about if you should be with this person or that person in this way or that way. That this person is right about this belief or that belief, because it is all relative. It is a choice in what you believe in. It is a choice on who you're with. It is a choice on what you do in life. It is a choice on what you believe in. It is a choice if you're choosing to go within self first, instead of believing what others tell you you should believe in. So lastly, what does all this have to do with the soul? What this has to do with the soul is simply this: that you are in this experience and you are relatively creating something that can be both either positive for you or negative. And it's a choice, because there are so many versions of you who have already chosen something, either what you would call good or you would call bad in a sense, what you call positive or you call negative in a sense. It's already happened. You're now making a choice on what you're going to create now. Is it going to be something you enjoy or something you don't enjoy? The choice is truly yours. So, in conclusion, what perception is simply this: being aware of something through the senses. That we make different judgments and we believe in different truths that we believe are true, but do not realize everything is relative, in the sense that it's a choice to believe in this or that. It's not absolute. Whether it's credit cards, systems, relationships, that relativity is simply the absence of standard absolute, which is believing in something only is this way, instead realizing that things could be this way or that way, up or down, back and forth, side to side. Who knows? Or maybe there are no areas it can go at all. Who knows? It's always an and or. It's a choice. Everything is a choice in what you create. And what these two do when coexisting and understanding them at the whole is helping change people's actions on how they see things. creating multiple systems to help create better ways for people to work with each other, provide for each other, and so on and so forth, to advance the self and growing and advancing how you think, how you work with people, behavioral behavior wise, on how you help self. And through the soul, what this does is allow you to choose an experience of what you desire and realize who you truly are, of how beautiful, how amazing, how divine, how magnificent, how creative you are as the gods, the goddesses, and the creators within. So we are ending it here. We're going to start with our next video shortly in 30 minutes. But to everybody out there, just realize to have a good morning, a great afternoon, and a fantastic evening. And again, we will be doing the next episode in 30 minutes from now. I'm going to be doing another one. Again, I promised you guys we were going to have 2 episodes. We will be having the next one in about 30 to 45 minutes from now. So I will see you guys shortly. I love you all, but I will see you soon. So to everybody out there, have a good morning, a great afternoon, and a fantastic evening. To everybody, peace and namaste.